Yeah, a warm welcome to everybody in this room. I'm really happy to see so many people in that room at that early morning, and Monday morning at 9 in The Hague. I could imagine I could something different instead to here to stay here in the room. But the topic is really interesting. The topic is really great, and thank you, Caroline, for this great introduction in this topic. I see a lot of well-known faces in that room. That makes me happy as well. That's because I had the possibility to present the topic on the SDN conference in San Jose, beginning of that year. It was in May. And that days I told that we are on a journey, and a common journey. And I think that is important to know that this journey should become jointly together. Operators, industry, standardization body, open source communities, and all the people together have to be part of that big journey, coming from the old classical OSS world to a new way how we manage our future networks. Having said that, in Deutsche Telekom, we are saying the classical way OSS is dead. We are not talking longer about OSS. Because if you continue with the way how we manage our networks today, I think we will fail. We will come in a very complex situation, and that is something what we have to avoid. Okay, well, what are the challenges in the future? I think it is not very surprising that the number of cells will increase dramatically. We're talking about 5G. We are not talking about hundreds of thousands of cells. We are talking about millions of cells. And you can imagine if you have to manage that from a classical way, if you're talking about operations, and by the way, I'm coming from operations, it will be really difficult to manage all these numbers of cells. Then a lot of small cells coming. That is really a topic which we have to consider. And of course, not only that, interconnections, Internet of Things, these are the topics which are driving us. And in Deutsche Telekom, I have to say, well, if we are continuing with the current structure, it will be really difficult, as I said, to manage all these new challenges which are coming up. But these are the technology changes that we have, but we have another one that is more about this SDN NFV, the Mano stack. You know that I am with ETSI, and we are talking now since a while about the Mano architecture. That will be the basis for all technologies in the future. Maybe not in the same way as it's written here or shown here, the stack, but virtualization is the basis for 5G in the future. And that will not disappear. That is a need to moving forward with NFV. And of course, another topic, another hot topic in our industry is what we're talking about is slicing in the terms of 5G. That is another project in NGMN. You know that we are publishing in NGMN an idea how we can do slicing. It's not on the end of the discussion. I think we are in the beginning of the discussion what slicing means, what kind of impact it has, but it's clearly, and it will clearly have an impact on our networks and definitely on the management of our networks at all. That means all of that, this Internet of Things, this 5G introduction, this NFV stack, and the slicing, that will really enhance the complexity of our networks. And we have to look for simplicity, and that is what Caroline mentioned in the talk as well. We have to simplify our networks. We have to simplify how we can manage our networks. Otherwise, I say it again, it will be not difficult to manage. It will be not possible to manage our networks in the future. And that is really, from operator point, one of the key topics which we have to solve in the future, how we manage networks in the future in an automatic way. And that at first we have to reduce the complexity, and that is one of the key topics that we have. Okay, then automation is key. I think a couple of you guys know this picture. It's well known from my side. I like this picture because it gives you a clear impression what we are talking about. No human being should be involved in the management of our networks. And normally I use that in my presentation. As I said, I think it gives a clear indication of what we are looking for. And automation is not only in the classical way of management and operation, it's more. It's more about DevOps concepts and this kind of things. It will have an impact on the organization in operators. We're not talking about longer a split between engineering and operations and this kind of stuff. We need a joint approach right from the beginning if we are designing technology until we take it out of the business, of course. Operators are normally very great to introduce new technology, but they forget to bring it out. I think there's a complete life cycle has to be defined, how we implement the technology and how we bring it out of the business. But this is based on no human involvement. And that is really important. If you talk to a couple of people, what does it mean, automation? What is automation? That's really, we're talking about simple things, fault management, configuration management, software updates, all of the whole thing what we have to manage, that is behind this automation thing. Okay, we talk a little bit about network and service management and OSS with a focus on SDN NFV. Real-time capabilities. To be honest, I have to say, if we are talking about real-time capabilities for a while now, as we introduced 3G, 4G, all the time we talked about real-time. But in principle, we are not implementing real-time. It's more or less a post-processing process instead of a real-time thing. And it's coming also from the point that 5G have this low latency stuff defined. And that gives real-time capability a complete different idea. We are not talking about minutes. We are talking maybe seconds, if useful. Not all the things that need a second reaction time. But I think I can imagine it is important that we have real-time in a very short time frame instead of post-processing process. Then closed-loop automation is about fulfillment, assurance, short life cycles on several layers. That is also closed-loop automation. And as I said, no human interaction is needed. Then we have to consider the integration design frameworks and model-driven execution. That is also a thing what we are discussing definitely internally in Deutsche Telekom, how we can realize that and how we can bring it on. We can have a good solution for that. Then looking forward about this, also a topic what we are talking internally and I think across the industry as well as the big data analytics capability is one topic, and overarching data governance. So many data we are collecting, and we have to interpret what does it mean, what kind of information we can use from that in order to give our customers a good service. And another thing what is under discussion is architecture intelligence, another buzzword in our industry, nobody knows what does it mean in reality, but it's a topic which you have to consider if you're talking about network management. That means we have a complete picture. It's not a singularity activity which we are talking here. All these puzzled pieces have, by the end of the day, give an indication how we manage our network in the future based on automation. Again, this is really, really important to drive the topic forward. Standard interfaces and operate product infrastructure. Standards are important, but I like to emphasize that. Standards in a different way as we did it. Long enough in this business, and if you're looking backwards about standards for 3G, 4G, it took a while to get a standard. I think this time is changing fast, and we have to consider that we have to find standards in a different way. And I am a fan to do it jointly with the open source community. I'm not saying that open source is key for everything, we have to find a way how we can bring standards together with the open source approach in some way. And that is my personal belief. That is something which we have to do jointly with, as a community, and of course with the open source communities. In order to achieve that, an industry collaboration is really key to achieve that. We have so many fragmentations in the industry with different activities and different ideas how we can achieve automation. My concern is really you have too many. We have, last week there was an announcement from OPNFV that they have a joint activity with TMF. That is good, but if there's only example how many different activities we have to achieve automation, I think it's time to kill this competition approach. We have to find it jointly. Okay, I think a couple of you were involved as we had a meeting or had a conference, can we say, last year in December in Bonn, organized by Deutsche Telekom. More than 100 participants, we attended that meeting from all places of the industry. That was open source communities in universities, vendors, operators. It was a really big event, and based on that, we agreed that we will do a small project. It started this year in March with a couple of companies were interested on the topic, and we delivered 2 good documents. I think these documents will be published soon. We will focus on the architecture and use cases for automation. But the bad is that this project is finished, is completed. It was a loosely coupled activity without any legal framework. And you can imagine that on one hand is good because we are flexible enough to manage the topic, but you have to have some restrictions from the API point of view and this kind of thing. And now we made a decision a month ago. It was a meeting hosted from Telefonica in Madrid, how we proceeding, what are the next steps to achieve automation. And we decided that we like to go to ETSI and found an ISG with a topic on zero touch. This is under preparation, and a couple of companies said, yes, we will do that. We are on board with that. I think we are around 12 or 14 companies. We said, yes, we have an interest to moving forward with that. Then I like to emphasize it's not the idea to generate or to found a new standardization body. That is not what we are talking about. Because I said, if we are creating a new ISG, a new standardization body, it will be not the best way to moving forward to get standards or to get a joint activity soon. And I think it is really the idea to generate a platform where we can talk with open source communities. On the left side, you see it here on the triangle. It's about OPNFV, it is about ONAP, it is OSM, all these nice open source activities we have on the table today. Then we have on the right side the industry standards. That means CGP, that means TMF, MEF, a lot of organizations on that side. And then we need, of course, industry requirements. Because new players coming in the game, that means the automotive industry is there, the health industry. We have all these nice verticals which have an impact to the management aspect as well. And I think that is the idea, to make a forum, a platform, how we can talk to each other and how we can synchronize the work what we are doing. Because if we are moving forward as we did, then we will burn money, we will burn resources. And I have to say I am involved in a couple of activities, and most of the time I meet the same people from another perspective. I like to travel, yes, but it should be useful. And that means we have to reduce all this different activity, we have to synchronize our resources, we have to synchronize our budget in order to achieve a good automation solution very, very soon, because 5G is on the horizon. It will be published, if I take that into consideration, what we are announcing in 2020. That is not that far from today. We are coming end of the year of 2017, and if you're talking about standardization, solutions, implementation, product deployment, then 3 years is not that many, or 2 years by end of 2017. Okay, yes, as I said, I'm coming to the end of my talk. I think it should be a joint activity, as I said. It's a really hot topic. It's time to solve that. It's really time to find a joint approach, joint solution, joint between STOs, vendors, operators, industry bodies, and open source community. And as I said, this competition between the classical way of STOs and open source is really time to find a solution for that. Yeah, if you're interested, this is my last slides, which I also presented in San Jose. You can find all the pictures all presentation from last year on this web page, and this nice hill gives you an indication. It will be not an easy task to complete our journey. It will be really hard stuff to achieve that, but it is needed and it's time. And I am inviting you and your companies to come on board, joining us, and find a good way to forward how we can solve the topic together.
Thank you very much, Klaus. Any questions for Klaus? I have this. Ray, I think.
Hi, yes. Ray Lemaitre from Light Reading. In all of the work on automation and zero touch, that's going to require 100% accurate data from which to work from. Is that the biggest challenge in this process, to have a repository of data that is 100% accurate?
In one point, you have definitely right. It is a big challenge, but it's not the most important one. We have a lot of challenges as well. We have so different information models. I think it's a time to find a common information model. Of course, for that, we need accurate data as well. I think it's really a puzzle of different challenges that you have. I can't say that the data accuracy is the most important one, but it's one of the important topics we have to find to solve. The mic, please follow the mic, then I have the chance to hear your question.
So thank you, Carolyn and Klaus. So I was just wondering, I didn't hear the word specifically cloud native. I didn't hear anything about elastic scalability, resilience, high availability. So I might have missed it, but I was just wondering specifically, we're talking about zero touch at scale, right? And all the implementations that I'm seeing that we're going into, what they're implementing initially is very much not cloud native. And you can't just be cloud native in parts, right? The entire infrastructure, the entire middle tier needs to be cloud native so it can all scale together. So I'm just wondering if that's a component or an aspect that will be considered as part of zero touch automation.
If I understand your question right, you're talking about scalability of the technology.
The scalability, resilience, high availability of the entire infrastructure. Right?
I think I got your question. I think the problem is, let me say from that point of view, in the past we bought vendor-driven platforms and technology. With the introduction of NFV, this game completely changed. In principle, scalability should be not a problem longer because performance is a given. And that means that has also an impact to talk about when we talk about automation. That we have to split it in different pieces based on the topics that the assumption that hardware is there, performance is not longer a problem. Of course, we have to find out what's the new challenges on that one. But in principle, we can split it in different pieces now. It means hardware, software, what Caroline mentioned in the beginning. I hope no, please.
Yeah, just real quick, just follow up. Yes, I think it could be assumed, but that doesn't mean it's actually implemented that way, right? So I think as far as the underlying architecture, I think it shouldn't be just assumed, right? It should be consideration of the overall solution.
I think the architecture topic is also what we discussed in the first phase of the project, and we said, okay, we have too many different architectures up and running. We need an overarching joint architecture. We have a lot of different interpretation how the architecture look like. And if you look about the TMF architecture or look about the NFV architecture, completely different. And I think that is one thing we have to solve very soon. We need an overarching architecture where we can manage, we can talk about. I think that is one of the core topics as well. And that is, I think, Alex from Intel, he was deeply involved in this architecture discussion. It's in our first phase of the project, and we have some ideas how we can solve that. But now it's time to share that.
Okay, thank you very much indeed again, Klaus.